Alright, looks like everything's working. Hey, before you guys start asking questions or anything, I wanted to take some time to explain to you why I started my channel, and also wanted to, if you could, whoever's on today, just message where you're from, what country, what city, whatever, because I love to hear from everybody all around the world. I've got a lot of subscribers in Europe. That's why I did it at this time today, because it's 6 o'clock in England, France, and Spain, I think. And I've got some East European subscribers, so that's why I'm a little early today, and probably a little early for my neighbors, because I was planning on playing some. So I'm going to talk for a while to give them a chance to wake up, because it's only 11 o'clock here. But what I wanted to tell you is the reason I started my channel years ago, maybe 2008, 2007, I can't remember. I saw I was putting my two daughters, I put all my three kids through college, but my two daughters decided to go to the expensive private schools. And I saw how fast my money was dwindling, as I'd saved up some money and working in the oil business. But I saw it dwindling, so I was like, shoot, man, before this is all gone, I better buy some equipment before I don't have, before it's too late. So my first vintage amp purchase was actually from a local store in New Orleans. It was a Silverface Deluxe Reverb. I don't have it anymore, but that was my first purchase. Every other amp I bought was on eBay, which I've got, some funny amp purchasing stories and some probably slight nightmares, but for the most part it always worked out. But that's exactly why I ended up learning how to work on amps, because I had too many and I didn't know a trustworthy amp tech. But after I bought, well, I didn't know what kind of amp I wanted. That was the main thing. I see everybody signing in. Just hold your questions. I'm going to talk for a little while. And still not raining. Yeah, I'm going to talk for a little while. And then first, I apologize for not answering all your questions. If I skip over a question, just ask it again, because last time was my first experience, and it's kind of hard to keep up with all the questions because they fly by pretty quickly. And I did learn that I need to, hey, Madrid, cool. I love it. I did learn that I should read the question, because I'm answering questions and you guys don't even know what I'm talking about. So that was a mistake. But anyway, getting back to the reason I started my channel, I started buying amps on eBay. I found a fairly honest seller. I think he's very honest. He's a blues player in California, in Huntington Beach. I used to actually live out there. I lived in California for 15 years. That's where I met my wife and had all my children. But now I'm in the New Orleans area. But I found him, and he had, every week he had a good amp, a nice amp for sale. So the 1960 Bassman was the first amp I bought from him, and that was just pure luck. I mean, the thing was all beat up. You guys have seen it. It looked like a rag doll, but it turned out to be a gem. It was probably the best amp, well, I think it's on YouTube right now. But anyway, I bought that from him, and then I ended up buying, he told me, man, you need a Vibreverb. Sooner or later, you got to buy a Vibreverb. He had the Vibreverb. I bought it. I bought the blonde Bassman, the 63 blonde Bassman from him. I think I bought a 64 Super Reverb. Yeah, I bought that from him. I bought a 59 Bandmaster from another guy, a big amp dealer. And that's a funny and not so funny story, but I think I'm going to have to do that on another session. And let's see what else. I got another super reverb from a guy in Colorado. I don't remember how that went down. That was one of my first amps too. That was actually the first super reverb I bought. Either way, I bought all these amps trying to figure out what kind of amp I wanted. And yeah, that's why I've got the collection I've got right now. And then within the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years, I think I bought another Tweed Bassman because I found one that was fairly decent price, and that was from California too. And it had been sitting in a closet. The guy said, "Man, this thing needs to be played." So I bought that, and that was a real great experience because I got to see the difference in the wiring between 59 and 60 and what Fender had been doing, the changes, and why my 59 didn't sound like the 60. And I finally got it sounding pretty close. I think the only difference right now might be speakers and the new Tweed on the cabinet. But hopefully I can play today. I don't know if some of you guys could respond on that little bit of guitar I did at the beginning. Was it super distorted? I'm a little worried that this computer microphone is not going to be able to handle what I'm going to do today. And if not, I'm going to have to regroup and find a better miking system for YouTube. I'll have to buy a mic or something. But, you know, I'm just going through my little Apple built-in mic. And in Bama, cool. Norway. Yeah, see, this is what I love about YouTube. I just love it. But getting back to my channel, I had all these amps. And in the beginning, I always went on YouTube to see. I didn't know what kind of amp I wanted, so I'd go on YouTube to see if I could find, you know, amp demos, and really couldn't find that many decent ones, especially with the Bassman because they're so darn expensive. And the Bandmaster, I didn't know anything about the Bandmaster when I bought it. I didn't realize what a rare amp it was. But so when I got all the amps, I said, well, shoot, maybe I should share these things on YouTube, and that's what started it all. I said, well, since I couldn't find any good amp demos, let me put mine on there, just basic demos. And in the beginning, I was seriously hoping nobody would watch. I didn't know anything about YouTube. I didn't want my co-workers to sit there and know that I was some crazy rockhead, you know, that just sat at home and played guitar all day long. And so I put those on there hoping nobody would look at them. And I slowly learned a little bit about YouTube. And now here I am, 8 years later, lots of nice subscribers. I love talking to you guys. I could help you, maybe. You know, I'm pretty opinionated. I see somebody there in Texas. I'm an old Texan. I grew up in Midland. When I was a kid, my dad was in the oil business too, so I moved around a lot. Midland, Denver, Lafayette, Louisiana. These are all oil towns. And then I moved out to Long Beach and Bakersfield, California by myself when I started in the oil business and worked in Lafayette. But grew up in Midland, moved around, ended up in Houston. So my first band that I ever played in was in Houston, or actually Seabrook area, Kemah, League City. I graduated in League City, which is down between Houston and Galveston. And so that's where I started playing in bands when I was a kid. Went to Alvin Junior College and to the jazz program there, which I had no clue of anything about jazz, but I played in the band, and that was fun. We won some contests, and either way, I've been playing since I was 16. Love it. It's one of those things I'll probably be doing the day I die. If my hands will hold up, seriously, your hands start giving you trouble. It takes me about an hour now to warm up. And I've got some finger problems and stuff, but I still managed to get them moving after about an hour. So today when I start playing, don't critique me too much. I warmed up a little bit before we went live, but I said I'm that's my channel story, and hopefully I've helped you guys. I know these amps are still way out of reach for most people, and they want to know about the reissued Bassman. And I played one once at Guitar Center, and I thought it was a great amp at first. You know, they are good amps. They had a lot more gain, and I thought, wow, this thing's a monster. You know, it really was punchy, but that's because they put a 12AX7 in it. And when I started learning about amps and I looked at the reissues, I said, well, when they make a reissue, why don't they make it exactly like the old amp? I never have been able to figure that out. So there are a lot of mods that you would have to do to the reissues to get them to sound exactly like an old one. And I don't know if it's worth it. I mean, you might as well just buy an old one and be done with it. But, you know, it takes a lot of money. Anywhere from, for a good one, probably $6,000 to $8,000. But so that's it. I guess we'll get to questions. I got my board right here below my feet, and hopefully I'll go through a little bit of the Bassman sound. I don't know. Let me get your reaction right now just to see what this does to the microphone, because it's super loud, and you saw when I got yelled at. I don't like to turn it down, even if the mic can't handle it. So if it can't handle it, then we'll just have to skip the playing today. But is that distorting? Let me know. Distorted as hell. Well, okay. All right. Well, let me try this. I do have a level here. Let me put this thing down and see if it makes a difference. Let me see what this does. I know it's going to max out no matter what I do. All right, let's try this. What did that do? Was that any better? Much better? Oh, cool. Well, all I have to do is figure out where the best level is. I do have a level control on here. Right now it's at -6 decibels, I think. Still a bit too fuzzy, huh? All right. Well, let me go down to 10. Is that 10 or let's try this. Still better. I mean, a little better. Much more ear pleasing. Well, good. Now, can you still hear my voice, or see, this is an experiment. Not quite, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, I mean, my flip cameras can take it. I don't know why, but Distortion City. Okay. Well, I guess voice is okay. Let me turn it back up. That's too bad. I was a little afraid of that. Well, thanks. Shoot. I'm gonna have to look into it. I don't know if I can plug a mic into this. Maybe I'll show you the notes. It just doesn't have to be realistic volume. I'll do that just so that you see some of the cool licks and the way Jimmy just changes things every second. I mean, he's totally amazing. Yesterday I called him the Mozart with an electric guitar. I mean, sometimes you don't realize how much of a genius he was until you see that he was a master at the wah wah. He was a master at everything. Volume control on his guitar, timing. It's just unbelievable. I mean, he uses his wah wah as a rhythm section sometimes. You can hear his foot. He'd do everything real. Wow, 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 wow. You know, he just really works that thing perfectly. And it's not easy to do when you're doing all that and you're trying to control your foot with the right timing. I really wanted to show you that, but I'll have to sacrifice. And let me try this. Let me turn my guitar down. Maybe if I go put a little fuzz in there, like I said, the fuzz. Believe it or not, a lot of that noise is coming from my computer, and I can't turn that off right now. Okay. Here, let's see if this. Yeah, I can see. Is that still distorted? See how hard that is to get up there on a left-handed guitar? Okay, just tell me, was that distorted too? Now I've got my guitar on too, but I have the fuzz on. Let me try this. That might work. All right. Well, let's get back to. Yeah, I'll turn the fuzz off and just use the OCD, and it should be okay. I don't have to make it realistic. I'll just give you the notes, but it's just the very first section. I mean, the reason I love that song is because it's one of the best wah wah songs ever done. I think if you don't have a wah wah now, you'll probably want to get one eventually. There's so many out there. I don't know anything about any of them except the old Crybaby and the Area 51 that I use. I'm perfectly happy with it. I don't like chasing everything out there because you spend your whole life just doing that. But it sounds good. All right. Yeah, I'll do it, but it's just gonna be kind of quiet, and that's good. So either way, let's see. Why don't we go? Like I said, I apologize if I missed some of your questions. They're going by pretty quick. I'm sitting here reading. But if you guys do have any questions, go ahead and ask. I see Bassman pedal is set too high. But that may have been with the fuzz. Let's see, I'll have to push the camera down a little bit here. You know, this is the question from Raphael. He has a Marshall Plexi clone, JTM68. Did Hendrix record with Bassman or Marshall? And coincidentally, I just have been searching the internet for information again. There's not a whole bunch of information out there. And people all, the forums will say, oh, he always used Fender in the studio, and I'm not so sure. So every picture I've seen is him with his a half stack Marshall. But I don't know. That's really what got me started on the Hendrix thing on my YouTube channel. I mean, like I said, at first it was just about amps, and I played a lot of Stevie Ray and Buddy Guy, and just mostly blues guys, Magic Slim. I did tons of videos on those guys, and then that one video that kind of went viral, I guess, it's got about 500,000 views now, of the 60 Bassman. I just sat there one day playing it clean, and I said, wow, man, that sounds like Hendrix's guitar. So I posted it, and it's been there ever since. And once I heard that, I said, well, shoot, why does the Bassman sound so much like Jimmy? And then I didn't, at that point, I didn't know that the Marshall was actually designed off of the Bassman circuit. I mean, that's what Jim Marshall did, was take the 5F6A circuit design from 1958, I think, is when they put the A on there, which was some slight change from the 5F6. And he made his Marshall amps, and that's why they sound so close. And then he went to the 100 watt, and that changed rock music as we know it. All right, well, let's see. Deluxe reverb. I heard he used a deluxe reverb a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, deluxe reverb, that's a totally different animal. I mean, it's got 22 watts. I guess in a recording studio, you could probably get a pretty full sound. I mean, they do have a lot of bass. That's why the deluxe reverb is so popular, and they have a lot of sustain. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure most of that stuff I hear, it's got to be the Marshalls. Or I saw somebody said he used Showman, which that was the biggest, 100 watt Fender amp made back then, with the 215 JBLs. Well, I read, okay, what wah would I recommend? I have the most standard 805, I think. Crybaby. I need to upgrade. Well, one thing about the Area 51, and this is actually what got me started on them. I didn't know anything about them. I don't even remember how I found out about them, but I had an old Crybaby. And if you go on their website, I think it's Area 51 Studio Designs or something. I don't know. Just Google Area 51 wah-wah. And he had a little kit, well, it was just a little board and all the stuff you needed to switch to put into your old Crybaby, and he had the instructions, and it's really pretty simple. You just take the old guts out, you put your new guts in, and see if it sounds better, and that's what I did, and that's actually what I'm playing now. I mean, that's what I've had ever since, and it's in my old Crybaby shell, and it in my old Crybaby shell. The only bad thing about that is it's worn out and the pedal just stays in the bright position or the down position. I take my foot off, it drops down. I wish it would stay in one place, but it is pretty fast. But just get one of those little kits. The kits are cheap. The only thing is, if you get the DC jack, then it gets a little bit more difficult, because you might have to drill a hole in your Crybaby if it's an old Crybaby shell. You might have to drill a hole. $80 Crybaby. Yeah, I don't know. I would try the drop-in kit. And I've got another one that he made, custom Clyde clone, which I sent it back to him because he's upgraded the pots on his newer ones, so I wanted to upgrade. So he's working on it right now, and I got it so vintage designed that it didn't have a DC jack, and then I realized that was a real pain in the butt because I had to unplug it all the time, and I was going through batteries. It doesn't use a lot of battery, but I still would forget to unplug it. What about the Italian-made wahs such as the Gin? They are easy to find here in Europe. Well, I think that's if that's a vintage one or if that's a reissue. And are they still made in Italy? That's the Italian-made wah such as the Gini. They are easy to find in Europe. shoot, I'd buy that thing today if that was a real one. But vintage, oh man, well that is the wah. I think that's the one. Now there may have been some changes later on in the '70s that may not have sounded so good. You know how they always like to get cheap on you, but yeah, '70s. I don't know. You might want to do a little more research on that. It may not sound as good as the older ones. They, you know, the inductor is real important in there, and the capacitors, and you know, there's certain inductors that you'll find on the internet that everybody covets. The Halo, I don't even know the different inductors, but there are different ones. And that's one. Area 51 custom winds their own inductors. And the Clyde clone is not potted. You know, they put wax on them to cut down on microphonics because wah-wah pedals here are notoriously microphonic. The inductor can make noise. So this one's potted, and it's fine. The other one's not potted, and it probably rattles a little more. That's why everything is like rubber mounted in those things. But you want it a little bit microphonic. That's what makes them sound so good, I think. Microphonics can be good in small doses. Chase tone wah. Yeah, that's what I like, the chase tone wah. I've never even heard of that one, but there's so many. There's the Buddy Guy wah. Everybody's got a signature wah. There's the Bonamassa wah. What I look for besides, I don't like all those darn adjustments, you know, quack, and some of them have 4 or 5 different knobs on them. If you want that much variety, I just want a basic wah. But the main thing I look for is one that you just barely have to move the pedal. And that's the secret to the wah, if you ask me. Because the faster you can get from treble to bass is what makes it sound good, you know. And even though I'm hoping the Clyde clone is even shorter than this one. And it was, but now that he's putting a new pot on there, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be like, really. But let's see. How do you get massive, crazy delay swells? Kind of like Still Raining, Still Dreaming. Is that sound possible with a delay pedal, or do you have to be in a studio? Massive, crazy delay swells. Well, now you're getting into another subject that I've started looking at. In the studio, I don't know. I mean, the ultimate echo machine is the original Echoplex. And I've played one, and when I plugged in my guitar, and this was way back in the 70s probably, I borrowed it actually from the jazz school where I went to in Alvin, junior college. They had one. I said, hey, can I take this home and play with it? I plugged my guitar in, and I immediately thought I was Hendrix. It was the best sound I've ever heard in my life. I mean, we just went nuts. And those things, there's something about them. When that tape goes around and erases the note, and then there might be a little bit of residue on the tape or something, and it just kind of, oh, it's gorgeous. It's the most gorgeous sound. You can't duplicate it. I mean, they try. And actually right now I'm using the carbon copy, and it's fine for me. It's an analog delay MXR, and I've got the mix down really low so you can't even hardly hear the delay. You can barely hear it. It's just pop. If I turn it up, this is what you'll hear. Either way, massive delays, I don't know. In the studio, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't use the Echoplex. All right, let's see. Make a giveaway? Yeah, I've actually thought about that. Is he talking about giving some equipment away or something? I'm going to get one now. Oh, an Echoplex? Well, you got to be, are you talking about an Echoplex, Garrett? Yeah, okay. I hope you have $1,500 They're asking an arm and a leg for those things now. And they're real finicky, and they're high maintenance, and you can't get the original tapes anymore. Thank goodness Fulltone makes a tape, but even the tape quality from the 60s was better. So he had to search for the best type of tape to make his tapes, because you can't just get any old tape anymore and throw it in there. Yeah, they're $1,500 to $1,700, pretty much, which is why I don't have one right now. But they're so cool because it takes almost two people to operate the thing. It's got a tape head on it that you move back and forth, and you can hit a note, and it'll be this super long delay. And this is probably how they got some of those crazy swirly sounds in the studio. And you take that tape head and you start moving it, and the delay will get faster and faster and faster as you shorten up the distance. And then it just goes into crazy swirl land. Then you go back real long, and you just go back and forth. We're sitting there going, wow, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it just, the most unreal sound. It's amazing. That's why I want one. And plus, what makes them so nice is they have a preamp in it that boosts the signal on your guitar, and it makes your guitar sound better. It's got a huge amp in there. I mean, the Echoplex box is about this big, you know? It's a big unit. And that's another thing. It's kind of a pain in the butt to haul around. Anyway, they're beautiful machines. All right, let's see. Oh yeah, Benson Echo Rec. I looked into those in the 60s. A good alternative, used by Hank Marvin and David Gilmour. Yeah, and I have a feeling, I looked at them, and I think they've got a bunch of record heads or something, like 7 in a row, and it's one big loop. And they just look like super high maintenance. One thing I don't hear much about is the Roland. There was a Roland one that, oh yeah, that Stray Cats guy, I forgot his name now. Stray Cats played one, Roland Echo, and those are big units too. But you don't hear much about them. I'm not sure why. He got a whole bunch of them. Yeah, Caitlin Brad made a very good Echoplex and Echo Rec clones. The biggest problem I have with any of them, if they're digital, I won't even touch it. If it's analog, that's better. I don't know. I don't want any digital stuff on my signal here. That's why everything I have is analog. I just kind of anti-digital. It sounds too sterile to me. But, okay, still raining licks. Now, let's see, I keep getting this. All right, let's see here. Now, let me move over here a little bit so I can do my wah-wah. I still got to do the wah-wah. Let's take my fingers off. You know where he starts out at the beginning? And then when he does that so fast, it's... Is that distorted or is that okay? 5 pedal. Okay, well, let me do these the guitar part and a lot of reverbs. Okay, so some still raining licks. Is that distorted? He actually overbends that note a little bit. And then he just goes immediately up. And this is what I fight when I'm learning Jimmy stuff, is where on the neck is he playing it? It drives me nuts sometimes. And I spent a couple of days trying to play all this up here because it kept me from jumping around a lot. I could go. But I'm pretty sure he played it down here in this. I'm tuned down to D, that's why he might not be matching up. That's D instead of E. I'm a whole step down. But he plays a lot of stuff in this bar chord position, which, what is that, like the fourth or fifth position? I don't know. You know this one. Well, here's the basis of that song that you'll hear. He goes, you know, at the beginning he's going. So he's just hitting those two notes really. He goes up a half step sometimes, and then one time he goes up a whole step. And then a couple of times he does this. Well, the whole point of me showing you that is there are a lot of different ways to play this chord. You can play like this. And you mute the G. Or you can play it like this, which is what I usually go to. But this one has the root, the D and the bass. And I think this is a better example here. The reason I'm showing you that is because that's kind of the general theme. He's doing that throughout the whole song. And he's also doing this. So he's always hitting that note. Just remember that, because that comes in, you can kind of see how he's relating all of his licks to that little. So, like I said, after he does that, and it's so fast, he does that so fast, it's hard to get the timing. And that's one thing that makes him the master, you know. He goes, he hits it really fast. And this is the only time I go up here. Like I said, I try to play it up here. Now I play almost everything down here, and then I jump up here for a few little things. But he goes. See, his rhythms are always different. That's what some people, you might not catch at first. He goes. And then this one he goes. See, the first one. Now that wasn't correct, but so he goes. Why, that's wrong. Okay. I'm doing it wrong now. That's it. So he goes. He does this a lot, so you might want to learn this one. He jumps from that, which I'm using my little finger, but he probably uses his ring finger. But I don't know. I have to use my little finger. Just remember that he jumps a lot from this he bends, he goes straight to. And the reason I showed you that note where he goes, this drove me crazy, but I think he does it, he goes, you can't really hear that because he goes so fast. He goes, and but it makes it easier to play. So he's really going. These are just the octaves up here. These are the same as going. So. Yeah, okay, let me get the rhythm of the song here. Alright, I'm getting you guys messed up right here. That's a cool lick where he goes. Okay, do this. And the beauty of it is it's all basic pentatonic stuff. But he does it with such mastery that it makes it beautiful. And he changes the rhythm here. This one is on the half beat. There you go. And that's a neat lick right there. So he goes. Now I've totally gone blank on the song here, Katie. Okay. So that's pretty much just the very beginning. It's not an easy song. All right. You guys getting any of this? He's busy playing, yeah. Can you read me? Yeah, it's hard to play and look at the comments at the same time. But the point is he's changing his rhythm and his notes so much, and it just sounds so wonderful. And he does this throughout the whole song. He plays so many different things. I mean, if you listen to it, it's just endless what he throws in there. I mean, just so many cool licks. And they're so simple. I like, he takes his wah wah off, and I like. There you go. That's so simple, but it sounds so good in that song. It's he's the master, but here's where he goes. the problem, you know, where's he playing this? It's so much easier to play all those down here. You get that thing cranked with your wah-wah, it sounds so good. I feel like doing it right now, but you won't be able to hear anything but distortion. But, so, yeah, maybe I'll do a video and try to explain it. I mean, I can't do the whole song. I'd be there for months. But the whole thing is this first one is on the half beat. Like I said, he does it with his middle finger. Now I'm messing it up. That's on that half beat right there. There he goes. And that's on the beat where he goes. That is such a cool little lick. There you go. So either way, I think I'd rather talk to you guys. I got to go here pretty soon, but if you get that going with the wah-wah, it sounds so good. I wish I could do it and keep it to where it wasn't distorted. Voodoo Child, yeah. Since you're in the real quick, can you show the intro to Voodoo Child? You know, I really haven't figured that one out. I mean, that one's a feeling thing. I mean, I did watch a guy yesterday, I think, and I said, man, he's doing a pretty good job. But he was using one of those Amplitude 3 simulators, and it sounded perfect, you know, which I thought was cool. I always like the real thing. It's harder to do, but yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of them on YouTube. Like I said, I don't really want anybody to ever get stuck where they just play every note. Now, if I were to go play a gig, you can be sure I'm going to try to play the dang thing note for note, just because he had better notes than I can come up with. But once you start learning what he was doing and seeing some of his variations on what he does, it helps you in your improvisation. And you just have to work on your own improvisation and get to the point to where you can fill in and be yourself. Because there's no way you're going to ever flow by copying somebody else's notes. You got to be in the groove, feeling it, and just wail away. And if you make a few mistakes here and there, no big deal. But you just got to play and play and play and play and learn the neck and the patterns and know where you are. And I played so much over the last couple years, you know, I'm just trying to feel the neck to where I kind of just know where I am. But that's still difficult. Jimmy knew where he was all one time. But, all right, let's see. Pyramid strings. You know, I first started pushing those strings years and years ago. And then I finally, after all those years, I went to the Dario XLs and the new NY XLs, which are super tough. They make their own alloy, and they don't break. My biggest problem with strings is the way I bend is I'll break strings constantly. I mean, I used to anyway. I mean, here's my pack of just single strings, 10s, 15s, and 13s to replace when I break them. But I use these strings because these are only about $3 or $4 a set, and the NYXLs are 12. But I do buy the NYXL right there, the NYXL single strings, because they're tough. I can't break them. Well, I can, but they seem to last a lot longer. And if you're breaking strings, you might want to try those. NYXL, yeah, I absolutely love those strings. The only thing that keeps me away from them right now is the cost. And I swear by this now, the gauge, I went through the whole Hendrix gauge thing. By the way, I love this guitar. But I went through the whole Fender gauge thing here recently. I went to the 10, 13, 15, 26, which is kind of odd because then it gets real, 32, 38. I tried that 32, 38, and my guitar would not stay in tune. When I was wanging on it with the whammy bar, it was horrible. So I went back to the 26, 36, 46 from the standard 10 to 46 set, and I love it. The only difference is that 15G, and if you're going to play Hendrix, you got to have a 15G. And then tune down to D like I am, which I usually at E flat. D helps a lot too. So on Still Raining, I'm down on to D, and that's the way that he played Voodoo Child too. But on that same album, there's most of the songs I think are in E flat. So he didn't tune to D a lot. But I highly recommend the 10 through 46 with the 15G. And here's another interesting subject that I wanted to talk to you guys about, are picks. I wish I could show you my desk because I'm sitting here looking at a graveyard of probably 50 different picks. I mean, everything from these stubbies, to these big old stubby triangular shape, to thumb picks. My favorite thumb pick was at the end became this blue slick pick. I used to use those a lot. Then I started making my own pick, which I used for years. This is made out of Lexan, and I used them for probably 3 years and never had to switch. I sanded them a little bit. I got the Ultex, which I don't like. This is actually a pyramid pick that they send you when they send you strings. See the pyramid? But this is what I was going to tell you. And then I buy strings from Strings and Beyond. They send their picks, and those are okay. But the other day I picked up this pick, and one thing you got to consider with picks is the tone you get. Some people suggested this Meta Carbon, what is that? Pick Boy. I don't really care. I don't like those really pointed picks. I like just the standard tip. Nylon. That's what I'm saying. The tone is what you're looking for. Now this is something, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of these. What did I just do with the other one? Our Cool Pick. Now this is a cool pick. You ever heard of Cool Pick? And here's another version of the Cool Pick. This is your standard pick. But what they do is this little cool logo is like some kind of weird rubberized stuff, and you can really feel it, especially when you try to pull it off of a desk or something. It sticks to it. You go, wow, what's wrong with this thing? But I'm really starting to like not this one in particular, but this one. I'm usually a heavy pick player, but I mean, I've been using the medium. I'm really starting to like these. I don't know what they're made of, but they have a good tone to them. The only problem is they're about 85 cents a piece. That's why I stopped. That's why I made my own picks. They're 85 cents a piece. And shoot, they only last me a couple of days. So that's kind of crummy. But I do like the sound and I like the way they play. But I mean, here I am, been playing since I was a kid. And I'm still trying to find the ultimate pick. You know, I went to, what are these, the V-pick route, you know, where you pay $5 for one of these crazy acrylic picks. I don't like those either. Oh, man, you'll like this one. Oh, here's a real pick. This is a real handed to me from Buddy Guy. That's Buddy Guy's signature pick. That's what I think he uses. At least that's what he hands out. I forgot that was sitting there. Either way, I've got them all. Tried them all. So, one thing. Okay, let me get back to the questions. I know you guys might be getting bored now. Anytime. What about nylon? I don't think I would like nylon. Do you have some tone tips for me? That's Tim on a Blues Junior Tweed version. I don't know, the Blues Juniors, I haven't played one, but I have a feeling you just crank that thing up and it sounds good. You know, you get your normal distortion just from turning the amp up and it's not too loud. Brass picks, well, I'm sorry. But anyway, tone tips, I wish I could show you, but I don't think I could live without my OCD. And my settings on my OCD are almost always the volume around 2, drive around 9 o'clock, and the tone anywhere from 10 to noon. And I run it on 18 volts, which cleans it up a little bit. But the volume controls on those OCDs are so valuable. I mean, you get it up around 2 and a little bit higher, you can really boost your amp. And that's what Stevie did with his Tube Screamer. I mean, he turned his volume probably all the way up on those things, turned the gain way down, and that's how he drove his amps into super overdrive. Plus, he had his amps cranked too. But if I was going to get any pedal, that would be the first one. I don't know if you really need a pedal with a Blues Junior, but you know, that's why when they say pedal friendly, what that means is you have a nice, clean, powerful foundation in your amp, which is probably higher wattage, 40, 45 watts. And it stays clean, and then you get the effect of the pedal without the amp breaking up too much. And there's a lot more adjustment there if you've got a pedal-friendly amp. Some amps, if you stick pedals on them, it's just too much because they don't have enough headroom. And when I always tell you guys about all you need to get this sound is a big, powerful amp, 50 watt, 100 watt, that's not really accurate. I think you need a big, powerful amp with a lot of bass. People underestimate the bass, and that, I mean, when you look at it, what are we playing? We're playing bass amps for guitars. I mean, everybody said, isn't that amp for a bass? Yeah, but it sounds so good on a guitar. I mean, when I first noticed it, I had a Bassman 10, which was pretty much a piece of junk, but it was still a tube amp. One day we were in this big auditorium on a stage, and my friend had one of those 3 pickup Les Pauls. I plugged it in my old Bassman 10, and I just cranked it, and I went, wow, that's the best I've ever heard anything like that. I couldn't believe it. But it was a bass amp, so you need a good amp with good bass. I remember one of my first big amp purchases when I started trying to get back into good tone was a Mesa Boogie Mark III. And this is in the 80s. And I never could get a good sound out of it because it didn't have any bass. And I didn't realize it at the time. There was a lot of overdrive, a lot of high gain, a lot of everything with a 12-inch EV speaker, but no bass. And that's what sounds so good. When you take a deluxe reverb and you turn it on and you play your Strat through it and you go, wow, that sounds so good. It's that bass that shakes the cabinet on your notes and it's so clear and clean. You got to have bass. So, but you got to have a lot of power too. Blues Junior, I think you just turn that thing up. Okay, let's give it. Do you find that if you get used to playing with small amps, once you play, when you, I guess a big amp, is it intimidating, affecting your playing? Well, yeah, in some ways it is, and that's an interesting story. I mean, I had a Fender DeVille. That was one of the first amps that I thought, hey, Fender's making good amps again. It was a 410 Fender DeVille. I think it was 40 watts. But it was a multi-channel amp, which I can't stand anymore. They had 2 overdrive channels, I think, and 1 clean channel. Well, I played that thing forever, and I played it on the overdrive channel, and I just whipping around through all this stuff. I thought I was the best player ever. And then I bought my first super reverb. I plugged into it, and I couldn't play. I mean, I'm sitting there going, what the hell? I can't even play this thing. I thought, what is going on? It was a big amp. It was so clean that I couldn't get any sustain. I couldn't get any distortion. And it didn't cover up any of my mistakes. That's what high gain amps can do for you, is they'll cover up a lot of mistakes. And you realize it when you get a big, powerful amp. The best thing, and it's probably the best thing for any professional musician, is to play a big, powerful amp because it makes you a better player. Trust me on that. It will make you a much better player because all of a sudden you realize you got to work that amp and you got to do it accurately, or you're not going to get what you want out of it. Now the OCD on a super reverb is almost a must-have still, and that helps a little. But when you have that high sustain, high crunchy sound, it'll cover up a lot of technique problems. My channel switch is my volume knob. Yeah. Bassbreaker is more of an old Marshall, I think. If you're looking for a Fender Classic, go for the Tweed. I wish I could... Yeah, I mean, I tell you, everybody asks about what amps to get. And as far as small amps, there's so many out there. God, there's so many. I see some every day and I go, geez, I totally forgot about that amp. I don't know how those guys survive. There's so many, in the business. But I don't know why I'm just not telling you. Just get the Bassman. Can you see it over there? There they are. And that would be my #1 suggestion. Whoops. Maybe I can show you guys a little bit. I don't think you'll be able to tell the difference, but just out of curiosity, this is the 59. This is the 60. 59. Now, granted, I've got the 60 plugged into the bright channel, and I've got the 59 in the normal channel. I've got the treble higher on the 59 in the normal to get a little brightness. You can probably hear the brightness difference. This is the 59. But I spent the last 2 years trying to get those 2 amps to sound the same, or trying to make it sound like the 60. When I bought the 59, it didn't sound as good, and I was pretty bummed. I couldn't understand why. Then I found out that Fender had made changes and never documented them on schematics. So through the help of people like John Grammatico and amp builders that were asking about my 60, I realized that they weren't wired the same, and I rewired the 59. Now I've got it almost identical to the 60. Let me look at some more. And in the end, you get a bass breaker, Bassman, and a blues breaker. Okay, what settings do you use on a Bassman? I don't know. Those things are, the controls, they do have an effect. I mean, the treble has a lot of effect, but I just, I don't really notice a lot of difference. I keep the bass almost on zero. I mean, it's about 1.5 because they have so much bass. And presence, I play around, but it's usually up at noon or maybe 2 o'clock. Treble, I move around just depending on what I feel like that day, anywhere from 6 to 9. And then volume right now is on 3 because they're so loud. And then I go back and forth between the normal and the bright channels. And let's see, the middle is usually around noon. But, I don't notice a lot of difference. I mean, Buddy Guy, he says he turns everything to 10 or 12, except the bass. He keeps the bass down just like I do, and he turns everything else up. And that's how he plays. And he has an overdrive, too, a custom overdrive pedal, like an OCD that he uses. But, that's my settings. Nothing real super secret about that. They, like I said, they don't seem to make a whole bunch of difference. They do, but not really. Not when you're playing loud. All right, well, what I'm going to try to do is, since I probably missed a ton of comments, I'm going to go back and do screenshots. I think it's something I've learned from the past. But let's see, what time is it? Well, we've been here an hour. I probably shouldn't keep you guys more than an hour, if that. It's a long video. I'm going to try to save all my comments so I can go back and if I catch a question, I don't know how I can respond. I guess I could look you up on YouTube and see if I can send you a message or something. But I appreciate all you guys, all my subscribers. Please subscribe if you haven't. I probably will do more live streaming. I think it's fun. It's pretty useful. If I'm not playing, it's a little more informative. I can sit there and try to explain things to you. It's pretty hard to give a guitar lesson over YouTube right there, but hopefully you got a few of the little licks. I wanted to show you more. I wanted to crank it. Now let's see, what do we got here? Damn climate change, still raining. Oh man, I missed a bunch of stuff when I was playing. Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and have a good weekend. Getting cold here finally, but it'll warm up again. But I'll be in touch. Hopefully you keep. I guess my subscribers get a little notification when I put a date out there that I'm going to go live. It'll probably be a couple of weeks maybe, but I'm going to check into this microphone thing and see if there's something I can do to get a better sound so I can crank this amp. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have fun and keep practicing. Play as much as you can. I'll talk to you later.